Hey, welcome back, Sergeant Major Sit Rep. Glad everybody could tune in. Thanks for tuning in last week. Going to do something a little bit different this week, something I normally don't do, just because I'm a little salty about the issue. This week's episode, I've been working all week. Spoke to the DOJ several times, pulled a lot of reports, worst of the worst. I was going to talk about the U.S. Attorney's Office work in the District of Arizona with ICE, Border Patrol, local law enforcement. Uh, I was going to tell you about the 1,032 illegals they scooped up off the street and out of jobs and out of criminal activity. I mean, 602 illegals were charged with felonies. 360 were already felons that had been deported before and let back in under Biden. A lot of good stuff there, a lot of real criminal activity, but we got to put that on hold. Like I said, I normally don't do this. I try not to respond in anger. I try to put information together that nobody's really talking about, people haven't seen, mainstream doesn't cover. But the last couple of days, and capping it off to this morning, where I'm getting these emails on my state email that some are just benign canned emails saying that we're not funding education, we're taking money out of families' pockets, we're hurting teachers, we're forcing teachers to buy equipment. That's just not the case. And I'm getting sick and tired of to save our schools, teachers unions, and all these other these these liars. I can't. There's no other word to describe these assholes. They are just flat out lying. I'm going to bring the receipts today. I'm going to prove to you that public education in Arizona is funded, fully funded. And just think about it. We've got fraud and access, over $2 billion to sober living. We have $2 million sent from the housing program to fraudsters. We've got the pay to play scandal with Sunrise. We got this governor that's full of fraud. We got election issues. We got all kinds of fraud going on. We make Minnesota look like child's play, but yet public schools, we're supposed to believe K-12 education is squeaky clean. There's not enough time in the day, nor could I cut and paste every single investigation the Auditor General has performed in Arizona, finding schools that are not in compliance, missing money, doing illegal activities. And as a matter of fact, you can look at it yourself, because it's probably, if you're not an Arizona resident, you're in another state watching this, you can probably go to your Auditor General's website, find that same information, because you can do it here in Arizona. The Auditor General's website is very easy to navigate. You just go to the website, you push in education. We'll put the link on the screen. I'll throw a screenshot on there of the Auditor General's website and where to look, and it will show you all of the investigations, to include the universities, the community colleges, K through 12, charter schools. All of it's there. All of it's there. And for these assholes to send me this kind of email, and I'm an elected official, soon not to be, but you have the right to criticize me. You have the right to mock me, call me names. I don't care about any of that. But you do not have the right to lie about our work. When we perform the work that needs to be done and we do it to standard or above that standard, you can be critical of it if you don't like it, but you cannot lie about it. Why? Because I got the receipts, and we're going to get into that next. So I want to get this out of the way, but I don't want to diminish it, because we are partnered with a new group called Sound Money. These guys have kind of reimagined what owning precious metals is like. So super easy. Anybody can do it. You could do it from $1. It's not a paper transfer. It's not a certificate. It's actual metal. So you can buy actual metal, gold, silver, what have you, and you can have it shipped to your home. No problem. You can have it in your hand. You can sell it later. You can do what you want with it, or you can get up to free storage for your first $500, and that's in the precious metals vault. Now, if it's stored in the vault, real easy. You get the money that you put into it. You want to sell it. You got a piece of gold sitting in the vault, you sell it back to them. Super easy, quick liquid cash. You don't like that idea, you want to hold it in your hand, you want them to send it to you by discreet protected courier. You get it in the mail, you stick it under your mattress or wherever your personal vault is, and you win. You still win. So your account includes the vaulted storage, insured storage up to $500 in metals at zero cost. You don't like it, like I said, you just have it sent to your house. Visit Sound Money / Talk Red, Sound Money Talk Red. We're going to throw that on the screen. Take a look at it. Something you should do, at least take a look at it. No harm, no foul to look. Get it sent to your home. Get it stored in the vault. Liquid money when you need it. Okay, let's get back to the story. All right. So let me just cover the email first, because that's where this needs to start. So like I said, some of them are canned, and I know you can't see it down here. I've got my computer. And this is one of the canned emails. This is the one that, just benign, everyday Democrats read and say, oh my God, the Democrats are doing everything they can. The Republicans are taking money out of schools. That's why they're broke and kids are not learning. So this is what I get from obviously somebody that has no freaking clue. They're just pushing a link and forwarding an email. State Representative John Gillette, I urge you to ensure our state local school budgets are fully funded and cover the essential school supplies students and educators need in the classroom. Families should not be required to purchase basic materials such as pencils, notebooks, folders, papers, headphones, tissues, cleaning supplies as a condition of participation in public schools. With that statement, I agree, and I'll tell you why later. Teachers should not have to use their salaries to fill gaps created by an inadequate education budget. That pisses me off, because I will prove to you that the budget is more than adequate, and the teachers union and all these administrative state people that are running the schools are just a bunch of liars, and we'll prove it. Shifting these costs into families and educators deepens inequity. So there we go with their equity nonsense again, because the poor kids can't afford pencils. You know what? The poor kids are going to get pencils. Nobody's being held back on a pencil. Schools and whether communities can rely on private donations as well as funded parent organizations. That's something else right there. That could be a whole episode. When you go to the grocery store and the teller says, would you like to support public education? Just press the button there and you can donate. That money is being solicited from a grocery store, wherever, whatever entity it is that's collecting money from the schools. So they collect a bunch of money and they give it to the schools. Now they're collecting the money from shoppers. They give it to the schools and they say, well, we donated to the school. That's a huge tax write-off. The school gets all this money that they're not taxed upon anyway, but they already get taxpayer money, bonds, budget money, and now they're collecting from the public. What do they do with that money? That's money that's outside of the budgets, outside the AEL. Where does that money go? We have zero accountability for people that get duped into, my kid's in school, I'll give a few bucks. You already gave. You gave at the office, you gave at home, you gave with your taxpayer money. Don't give them any more money. That is the problem. Last paragraph. Please support dedicated funding for classroom supplies. Require school districts provide essential materials for every student and establish a reliable reimbursement process for educators who make approved classroom purchases. Okay, let me start breaking this down one by one, because once I do, and you figure out, like most of us that have dealt with the budget, how these public schools are just a financial scam and a total ripoff, and we're not getting any bang for our buck, you're going to be as angry as I am. Like I said, I don't typically change my programming. I research something for the week. I find something that people aren't talking about, but this is taking priority because we're in an ESA battle right now where a judge is going to decide if a bill that, quote, Save Our Schools, Teachers Union, Outside Influence, have put petitions together to limit our ESA program. The ESA program is the backpack funding we spoke about for years. This is where the money, your tax dollars, follows the student to wherever you want them educated. The parent's choice. That's what they're trying to kill because, well, that hurts public schools. You're taking money out of my pocket. We are not, and I will prove it. So let's break part of this down. Please support dedicated funding for classroom supplies. That's not our job. That is not the legislature's job. That is the school board's job and that superintendent. They write their budget based upon the appropriation they receive from the legislature. So now you could say, okay, legislature, shorten them out. No, we give them the money. They build their budget. They build their budget, and they could put that in the budget like that. They could write a line item in there, $500 to each teacher for school supplies, and put the burden on the teacher to do the actual shopping that supports their classroom. Or there's a myriad of ways they could do this, but they have chosen not to. So establish a reliable reimbursement process for educators who make approved classroom purchases. Again, not really our job, but we've given them a pathway to do so. There is a pathway to do that is lawful. If a teacher spends their money or needs some additional training, we have put a pathway in the budget, a legal statute that allows them to do that. I can't force school superintendents and school boards to do this, but maybe we should. Maybe we should do their job for them because they seem to be so inadequate and ill-informed, not even understanding the budgetary process, that we get emails like this. Now, I argued with this guy, sent him back, and I'll give you snippets of what I sent back. But in his email, he sent me the canned email and made other claims. Arizona's 49th in I can't say it, 49th in per pupil spending. Okay. Yeah, if you tally up all the states, that could be true. I don't think we're actually 49th. It could be true though, because you have California, New York, Massachusetts. You have all these high tax, high cost states with a high cost of living. Obviously, they're going to put more money into their education system, their per student spending, because it costs more to live there. Now, if you have a lower tax base and you have a lower cost of living, that money that they're putting in, that $20,000 a student, is equivalent to the $13,000 a student we put in here, because our cost of living isn't as much. Our cost of goods and supplies is not as much as it is in California and New York. But let me bring this to your attention. I know you can't see it, so I'll hold it up. This is the Arizona budget book. This giant big book right here, this contains the Arizona budget, something that I've been involved with heavily for 4 years. We have a law, 15901.1, and it talks about the establishment of Proposition 301, which was passed a while back, and it's the base level spending. So in Arizona, every year we already have a 2.0 inflation adjustment built into the budget. And then with 15901B2, we can go up to 7% increase. So whatever the cost of spending is, whatever the budget is, that's what we can add. And that's what we do add based on this funding formula. But of course, these boneheads sending the emails, they have no idea any of this is going on, because they don't read, understand, or even know the budget. So from that, let's go to the next part. I said, it's misleading. Teachers union, big ed talking points. It relies on the narrow national metric. Now, what does that mean? That is a metric put together by the teachers union and all these organizations that establish a hierarchy ranking of funding. They don't do it on economy. They do it per student only. That is their metric. It's a very narrow window of what they measure, and it's meaningless. So, hard fact, Arizona has increased K-12 funding every year since I've been there. And I look back on older budgets, we increase K-12 funding every single year to include the statutory 2% inflation increase. So we have backfilled so much money in public schools that they should be swimming. And you say, oh, well, we hear it all the time, they're not swimming, but they are. At the beginning of this budget year, Arizona schools had $8 billion, so 7.7, I believe it was, 7.577, almost $8 billion in dead cash they cannot spend. Now, I took the time to look at all the large school districts in the state of Arizona. There is not one school district, not one in the state, even schools with 40 kids in it that opened this school year in a deficit. On average, schools opened the school year with over $1 million, just sitting there waiting to be spent. But yet they said they're broke. They can't afford pencils and pens. They can't reimburse their teachers. All these things, but $8 billion across the state. Now, myself and other representatives, we wanted to claw that money back. Hey, schools, you screwed up. You collected too much in taxes. You couldn't spend the money. It needs to come back into the general budget because this bonehead governor, Katie Hobbs, has spent us from a surplus to a deficit. And then $8 billion could really, really help. But we didn't get that done. Too much pushback and feasibility. It will happen under a Republican governor. We will right the ship. So what I want to specifically talk about involves partially this email, and I talked to a lot of teachers. I talked to a lot of people. Teacher pay. Teacher pay in Arizona is it's not bad, but it's not great. And we want good teachers. We want good teachers to be in school. We want to pay them a good living wage so they stay in that school and they grow. Now, there's other problems there because you get the admin bug like anybody. Everybody wants to excel in their career. So at some point, the teachers that have been teaching for, the average is 12 to 15 years, they start wanting to move into administration. One, because they get out of the classroom, they earn more money, they get better degrees, and they move into that upper rung of school administration where they make the big bucks, like the superintendent that makes, $300,000 a year, take home car, all the benefits in the world, travel pay, all this nonsense to run a school. So there you have it. That's kind of the flow, but your starting teachers that are good and your teachers that have been there for the 7 to 10 year mark that are really on their game, they can assess pretty much every student in their classroom and figure out how that student needs to learn and kind of work with those kids and get them there. Those are the ones we want to retain. The woke liberal purple hair with the pride flag in the classroom, we want them to go to McDonald's where they belong. But let me get back on track. So the classroom site fund, that is the law that funds teacher spending, and the teachers unions added in a little kicker to that. And we shouldn't have allowed this, but the classroom site fund is a state law and it is in the budget. I'm going to read verbatim. I have the digital copy right here. So 2025, 1.53 billion, 2026, 1.1 billion, 2027, 1.13 billion. And that increased a per student amount given, but it also did something else. This is the fund that pays teacher salary, teacher training. Now, the schools, they didn't like that. So they added in a part, well, we can also use this money to reduce class sizes. What does that mean? We don't know. It's up to them. They just make shit up. And previous legislatures allowed this to get in there because it sounds good. Oh, we want to reduce the size of class. We don't want little Billy sitting in there with 25 kids. We want little Billy sitting with 13, 14. 15 max. That's it. So yeah, we'll throw some money at this. Maybe they can expand some classroom or hire new teachers so they have a better teaching base. Now, this is what these knuckleheads are emailing us, and they haven't once taken a look at our budget. Now, K-12 spending in Arizona is half of our budget. We typically have anywhere from between a $16 and $18 billion budget. Half of that goes to K-12 education. They say they don't have enough. So I asked Representative Gutierrez, who is part of the teachers cabal. She's all in on the woke leftist nonsense. I asked her on the floor once, well, how much money is enough? You're saying we're not funding you. How much money do you need? Put a financial figure on it. Put a metric on that. How much money do you need to teach kids to grade level and graduate them? Of course, they don't have a figure. They just want more money. So let me throw this at you because this is what pisses me off. And you can see I'm a little salty today because of all these emails and talking to these people, just the absolute freaking lies that the teachers unions put out, SOS puts out. The teachers believe it. They believe this. Some of the board members believe it, and they're supposed to be writing the budgets. That tells you right there. School boards, uh, there are good board members. Don't get me wrong, but the majority of your school boards need to be absolutely flushed. These people need to be gone, barred for life, done. They can't read a budget. They don't understand a budget. That is their sole function, is the budget, and they can't do it. They need to be gone. They're there for their woke ideology, or, well, we need to inclusively. No, they need to do a budget. That's it, budget. But let me get back on topic here. So 2026, this year, and 27 being next year, 1.3, 1.2 billion dollars in the classroom site fund. If you were to take that money dedicated to the classroom site fund with the number of teachers in Arizona, number of certified teachers in Arizona, which is about, it fluctuates, it's around 6,700 teachers, you could give every teacher in the state a $6,000 pay raise right off the bat. Now, they typically get between 4 to 6% on the high side, but that is sure ain't $6,000. And if you squeaked it a little more, you could give $8,000 a year. So that's what we funded. This is what we funded. So the classroom site fund has grown 3.9% or more every year. Now, the schools have a ton of money, and we see how they spend their money. We see the budgets. The Auditor General sees it. She writes a report and says, nope, you misspent. You're not in compliance. Hey, where's this money at? My own district here, they couldn't tell us where $24 million was. They were withheld funding for a couple years because they moved it around, spent it. Who knows where it went? We know where it went. It went to a solar project that wasn't approved, but they did it anyway. And they took money out of maintenance and operations and some other funds to build this up. And they put some solar on that will never pay for itself. So this year, the 2025 budget that we passed last year and this year, $9.5 billion, over half the state's budget, like I said, goes to public schools. Next year, $9.72 billion. We do a 3-year budget. That's $174 million increase in public schools in a year, but we're defunding them. And what they do is they blame it on the ESA program. That's our empowerment scholarships. Like I said, that is your parents' choice backpack funding, where the student goes where the parent wants the student to go. The taxpayer, my money doesn't go into the public school system. It follows my kid to whatever school they want to go to or whatever school I deem necessary. Now, the public school cabal says that money is theirs. They are entitled to my tax money for other kids. But if the point is to educate kids, I'm doing it, or the parent is doing it at half the cost, because the ESA only goes up to $7,000. So on average, we're like $13,500 per kid in the classroom in K through 12, but ESAs does the same thing for $7,000, for half of that. But yet we're taking money out of public schools, is what they keep saying. That's the message. We're robbing public schools. But you can see from the budget, and you can go to azleg.gov, go to the JBL website. You can pull up the budget. It's online. It's digital. You can print the thing out if you want. It is all there. The numbers are there. The facts are there. I'm going to post this clip right here so you can see a snippet of the budget, see what I'm talking about, find the right page. You can see that public schools are funded. They are actually overfunded, but you'll never hear that from the public school cabal. You know, I've got a bill. And since I'm not running again, I'm giving this bill to one of the representatives taking my place. And he is a school board president, former school board member, who's done a wonderful job, found their hidden money. He did. He found their hidden money, millions of dollars in the budget, and he reallocated into the school system. They're flush. They're doing fine. He found their stinky money hides. So what my bill is going to say, and what it does say, I've got a copy of it just about done, still working some tweaks out. But I encourage everyone to contact your state representative and tell them you want a superintendent's bill. And what is a superintendent's bill? For those of you who don't know, most states, a school superintendent, a K through 12 superintendent, is a 1099 contracted employee to that school district. They're hired by the board, salary is negotiated in a contract, and they're paid. But they are paid with taxpayer money coming out of these very coffers, and they are paid very well. You'll rarely find a superintendent that is paid less than a couple $100,000 a year. Teachers are at the 40 to 60 level while they're making a couple $100,000 to supposedly do the budget and make sure the classrooms are stocked properly and the curriculum supports what we need in the future. Now, we haven't even talked about academic levels yet, and we'll get there. So, with the ESA program, teaching kids for half of the cost of the public school program, that's a win right there for the state budget. We keep more money, but the schools continually say that we're ripping them off, even though their budget has grown. Now, here's another kicker. The public schools, based on all their woke ideological bullshit, their agendas, their poor performance, their LGBTQ support, their grooming, they're taking kids out of the classroom to protest ICE. Parents they're done. They're fed up. So the public school numbers are in steep decline. You have districts that are closing because they can't meet their financial obligation because they don't have enough students. That should be a signal right there. Schools are still a free market. We must make them a free market. So the good schools live, the bad schools die. That's how it needs to work. We were number one and two in the world until we got the Department of Education in DC, and then we started a decline, and now we're way down there. So academically, I'm going to put this graphic up right now. This is the Auditor General's accounting of where kids are graduating. Now, you don't have to take the Auditor General's word for it, because this graphic shows the 12 News accounting that they did in their reporting. So Arizona public schools, mainly Maricopa, Pima, the larger counties, are graduating kids that cannot read. You've heard this before, and people, oh, that's not true. Maybe their reading isn't as good as it was in our day. But no, they literally can't read. They can't do math. And they're graduating them at the 10th and 11th grade level. They're walking out with a diploma. That diploma says, hey, I graduated high school. I completed the bare necessities. I met the minimum standard to enter the workforce as an adult. But they can't read or do simple math. That's the product that we're getting out of public schools. And they want more money for a product that sucks. And then they've got the audacity to tell me that I've not done my job when I have been in depth in the school budget. We have in my county alone, we have a county superintendent of public instruction that was called to the carpet by former Senator Sonny Borelli and Representative Gress that sit on the JLAC committee, dealing with school funding. They called him in to answer about his broken budget and his poor failing school that the Auditor General found. So they called him in to testify in front of a committee. What does he do? He brings his lawyer. He doesn't want to answer any questions. He's failed. The money's not there. He said it's just some simple accounting errors. And then we elect this guy to county superintendent. Then he doesn't show up to work. Now, to top that off, his ex-wife, now, I mean, he has no control over his ex-wife, but his ex-wife lives in Washington State. She flies to Arizona to be a superintendent in Arizona, part-time, a couple days a week at $650 a day. You cannot make this shit up. This is unbelievable that the schools waste this money and then blame us and blame taxpayers for not funding them enough. And then they have the audacity to send a note home, well, we need all these supplies. Now, if you're going to a private school on ESA program, okay, I get it. You're only getting $7,000 a kid. Teachers are making a decent living wage. You need to have some say in the game. You're going to a private school, your kid's held to a higher standard, higher academic standard, higher standard all the way around. You got to have a little skin in the game. I get it. That's private school. You made that choice. But for public school that's supposed to be funded by the taxpayers, they already took your tax money. They already took it. The school's got billions of dollars sitting around, and now they want you to flesh out some more money. While when you go to Kroger's and put your card in, would you like to donate to public schools? No, I would not like to donate to public schools. I already gave them clowns a bunch of money and they pissed it away. So, and I don't want to give you a tax credit because eggs and milk are still too high. Not at my Kroger's, mind you, Kroger's better prices. Meat's getting up there a little high. So, Don, if you're watching this, work those meat prices, buddy. They got to come down. All right. I'm about done with my rant here. I'm going to put those graphics on the screen so that you see them. But I really do. If you're a parent at home with children and you have these concerns, especially if you're in Arizona and you're watching this court case right now, and you see the rhetoric put out by Save Our Schools and the teachers union, how we're just shortchanging these kids, it is not true. Not rooted in one iota of fact. Now, not even covering the people they use to collect signatures, felons, out-of-state people that have had their voting rights taken away. Yes, convicted pedophiles, fraudsters. That's who they use to collect signatures. So while you're out there walking into Kroger's with little Billy and little Sarah, and the mom's going into shop, you get this guy comes up, hey, would you like to sign our petition to save our schools? Well, yeah, I've got kids in schools. They don't know that the guy's a pedophile, a convicted pedophile, and he's right there in front of the kids collecting signatures. That's the kind of crap you're getting out of public schools. If it's me, I'm getting rid of all public schools, and I'm taking those buildings and I'm giving them to private school educators that know how to run a school. Now, you might say I'm a little jaded or, too draconian on these issues, but having spent a lifetime in the military and watching the DoD schools, having been a course manager and schools sergeant major, I see how the military runs their schools. They run it. TRADOC spends a little bit of money, but they run in a very efficient, tight ship. Now, did I know anything about schools? No. I know about operational flow and design and personnel management. I get the right people in. So in the particular school that I was working at, we made drill sergeants, medics, PAs, and nurse practitioners. I'm not a PA or nurse practitioner, but you know what? I know where to find surgeons in the military that have their PhD in education. And I call them up. Hey, Colonel, we need an instructor at this schoolhouse. You fit the billet. Let's bring you over here and put you in this academic environment so you can train our future warriors to do this job. Hey, drill, you're getting kind of old on the trail there. You've been doing this 15 years. You're E7. Let's get you a promotion. Let's make you master sergeant. You come teach these new drills everything you know about training troops. That's my job. I find the subject matter experts that teach that skill. I make sure the funding's there. I make sure the commander's intent is followed, and we run a tight ship with 9 people running thousands of kids through a cycle in multiple disciplines. 9 people in that schoolhouse, not including the instructors, 9 administrative folks. That was one of my previous CSM billets before going back to combat arms. So CSMs don't get to pick a billet. And I'm like, why are they sending me here? Oh, yeah, I've been an instructor. I was an instructor at sniper school, instructor at SWAT programs. I've been an instructor, but I don't know course management nonsense, but apparently you do. If you've been there and done that, you have the experience. The Army understands that. They put you with a commander that needs some experience, and you make things happen. 9 people run a school that makes high school look. I mean, we're moving equipment, we're moving soldiers, we're moving big resources, we're doing big things. And schools, the kids go, they sit in classrooms all day, they fiddle with their phone or computer, and they go home and they don't learn anything. And we're paying more for that than we are to make medics, drill sergeants, and nurse practitioners, PAs in the Army. Unbelievable. All right, folks, that's my rant today. Sorry I went off on it, but getting tired of these emails, getting tired of the school lies, and everything they're putting out, especially in election year, is ultra amped up because they say that we're defunding the schools. We have given the schools more money. If I've left nothing else on you, other than, okay, is this guy, does he sound legit? Don't take my word for it. Just go look at the budget. Every year increases, cost of cost of living increases, statutory increases, CPI increases. Every single year, the schools have gotten more money. The ESA program is expanded as well. Yes, those kids are flourishing, but the schools didn't suffer. They say they're suffering, but they didn't lose a dime. They gain money every year. Don't take my word for it. Go look it up. Thanks. Have a nice day. Next week we'll get back with the 1,000 people that have been moved off Arizona streets that are criminal activities and illegals. Until next week, train like they hate you because they do.